Drafting Archetypes is brought to you by Grey Viking Games. Check them out with our affiliate code link in the description.
Hi everyone, this is Sam Black continuing my Midnight Hunt review with green. So, the top performing green common by almost 2% is Eccentric Farmer. This reinforces the idea that this format is very much about mill drifters, or just any kind of creatures that are giving you value in addition to a body. The cost that you're paying to get this thing's Enter the Battlefield ability is extremely low. 2-3 for 3 is just not that bad, and this will frequently get you a land, and then sometimes also give you a card that's active in the graveyard or whatever. So this is a good place to be. Next up, Shadow Beast Sighting. I've mentioned that 4/4 is just kind of monstrously large in this format, and you don't get punished that badly for playing a token. It can be answered on evenly for mana by Revenge of the Depths or whatever it's called, the blue put a thing on top, make a zombie. But then you've spent 4 mana, they've spent 4 mana, they have a zombie, you have a 7 mana flashback spell, Revenge of the Drowned. And that's a reasonably even trade. So then obviously they can answer it for 2 mana with Geist Wave, but as we saw, Geist Wave stats aren't great, so it's going to be played a little bit less frequently, and that's still a trade where even though you're down on mana, you are at least up the flashback card. Outside of that, the token basically has to be treated as a real object, and 4/4 is good stats. 4/4 for 4, just surprisingly good stats considering you get a rebuy for 7. So very good card, as we see more than 2% better than the third best card. Third best card, huge step down, Harvesttide Sentry, 3/2 Coven or 3/1 Coven. Has been good in aggressive Coven decks, and then is also serviceable in the slower green decks as a pretty reliable way to trade with a ground attacker early to give you time for your later stuff. Coming in at an extremely similar win rate, Dawnheart Rejuvenator. I do like getting 3 mana up front, 3 life up front, rather. This is a kind of card that is kind of a linchpin of multicolor green decks. I think that this format is not one where I want to be a multicolor green deck, because I think that the other enablers for that are pretty bad, and I haven't found a lot of reason to play 3-color rather than just playing 2. So this card, the extra stuff that this does, has been less good than this text box would be in other formats for me. That said, it is just this card in a vacuum is good at doing the thing that it does, so there is a place for it if that's what you're in the market for. Dual Front Dominance, I would have expected this card to be a little bit higher. I've been rating it fairly highly. Fight spells are good with werewolves. Unfortunately, werewolves aren't very good, so bit of a bummer there. But this card's really good with Coven. Getting to pump a thing for only 2 mana is really nice. You can do some nice little combat blowouts with this sometimes. The instant speed is a pretty big deal. The +1/+1 counter is really nice. I like this card. Mighty Old Ways. This is another strong Coven payoff. I think it is appreciably less strong than Duel for Dominance, as we see with it being almost 1%, well, whatever, more than 0.5% lower win rate. But I do think that Coven decks want this, but you want to be careful about not having too many of these like Coven payoffs that aren't Coven enablers. Timberland Guide. This is another good card for the Coven deck, in that it makes it pretty easy to get Coven by moving stats around and getting an extra body to, like, if you have 2/2/2s, you're nowhere near Coven, except you play this, and then suddenly you have Coven. It's not like exceptional outside of that. Follow the Hunt. Wow, green is really shallow. Like the rest of these cards are kind of, whatever, filler. Howl the Hunt is like a combat trick that gives you some residual value. It's, we're at like the win rates that are, I try not to play this in a deck. This is potentially fine in aggressive decks, but I don't want to play it very often. Tireless Hauler has all the problems I've been talking about, all the reasons that you don't want to play big, expensive werewolves. Try to avoid playing this in your deck. Candlelit Cavalry, it's like okay to have one of these at the top end of a Coven deck to like get some trample to play with your tricks or whatever, but it's not very good. Pestilent Wolf, this is like one of the weaker 2-drops. It's just a ton of mana to spend on Death Touch. It ends up being like a really bad form of evasion where like you attack with 3 mana up and your opponent has to be like willing to trade with your creature to block it, but like then they get to force you to spend 3 mana, which means that you're not really trading up in a meaningful way most of the time. And then it doesn't block particularly well until the very late game because you're unlikely to be able to leave the mana up. So it's just like pretty close to a vanilla 2/2. Bird Admirer. This is like, okay, if you're defensive, it can be important to have the thing to block flyers. The stats being as bad as they are point to you should not be trying to do this. Kind of falls into all the traps that I've discussed about this being a format where blocking is just kind of categorically bad. Tapping at the window, this has the problems that I've discussed regarding how this is a format that punishes you for spending mana to not impact the board. This asks you to spend mana so that you can spend more mana to actually get ahead and has a chance to whiff. Snarling Wolf, I'm a little bit, but not very surprised that this is as low as it is. It seemed like it might be an okay Coven aggro card. But end of the day, it's just a low impact card that doesn't have the advantages of Lunarch Veteran. Bounding Wolf, this thing aspires to have synergies with werewolves where you can pass the turn to get to night and then cast this to not waste your mana. At the point where you care about that, your deck is probably disastrously bad. Bramble Armor, I think that it's okay to play one of these in an aggressive deck, but the stats tell me that I probably shouldn't be doing that. Path to the Festival, the fact that this card is as bad as it is kind of what I was talking about when talking about how I didn't want to play Dawnhurt Rejuvenator, because this is like your second tier fixing and it's just way too expensive. So you basically, I find all these spots where it's like, well, I could splash, but I'd have to play Path to the Festival, and it's just not worth putting Path to the Festival in my deck to splash, so I don't splash instead. And then we have a couple of sideboard cards. Uncommons. Rise of the Ants is into like actual top tier type stats. 2 3/3s plus 2 life is very good at giving you time to get 2 more 3/3s and 2 more life. This card is very, very good at doing the thing that it's trying to do. Dawnhart Mentor, this card is awesome. It basically guarantees Coven by giving you a 0 and a 1, which are 2 sizes you're unlikely to have. And then if you aren't doing anything with your mana, it's basically impossible to engage in combat with you. Death Bonnet Sprout. This thing is sweet. It is a 1 mana card that contributes to Coven while generating value over time, and then when it flips, it becomes actively awesome. Plays super well with any self-mill, so specifically it plays well with Eccentric Farmer and Organ Hoarder, which are cards that you are very happy to put in your deck anyway. I would say that you generally want to avoid going out of your way playing stuff like tapping to make it good, but if you just fill your deck with creatures, especially other creatures that mill you, it's great. Clear Shot, this is like a considerably better version of the Common Fight spell. This is better because the creature doesn't do its damage back to you, so it's pretty easy to get like the in combat blowouts where you kill 2 of their creatures with this. Contortionist Troop. This card is, I think, really strong. It's really good at giving you Coven, and if the game like goes on for a while and it's not answered, it is just really strong. This is obviously better than all but the top green commons. The game and hand win rate here obviously isn't exceptional if you're used to looking at like blue and black cards, but again, when we compare it to the commons, it's the better. Like there are 2 commons that are above it and nothing else that's even close to in its league. And then there are a bunch of uncommons that are like in that below Shadow Beast sighting, but better than all the other commons range. So Hound Tamer is another one of those, where this card is just like very clearly and meaningfully better than the other green commons, but still is green. Green is appreciably better than red, but nowhere near as good as the Esper colors. Outland Liberator. I would expect this to be a larger drop-off than that from Hound Tamer. It is nice that it starts the day-night cycle very cheap. If your opponent like isn't ready to do something on turn 2 and you get a 3/3 immediately, that's really big, especially since it means that your other werewolves will come in on night side. But this is still mostly just like, a slightly above rate 2-drop. Dryad's Revival, fine, very, very slow. Definitely how good it is going to be a function of how much cheap removal you have. Burley Breaker, this just has the same problems as the other big werewolves. Often there's like a green uncommon whose thing is just being like way too big, and often that card is very good. The fact that this card isn't especially good is like a really, really clear demonstration of what I'm talking about how impactful having 3 rather than 1 or 2 premium cheap common black removal spells impacts things, especially then when you add Silverbolt on top of that. Defend the Celestus. It's a trick. Apparently it's fine. Nothing special. Turn the Earth. This does some cute stuff. I think it's probably just generally bad. You're basically going down a card. Like, I'm sure that there are like blue-green decks that mill themselves enough that they get to do cute things with looping these or whatever. I don't think that's where you want to be in this format. Broodweaver. Oh, this thing looked reasonable to me, but apparently it's pretty bad. I guess it's the same situation as Bird Admirer, where blocking just really is where you want to be. Rares. All right. So first we have the comically busted Tollivar's Huntmaster. 66% game in hand win rate is among the top rares, and then we see a 14.4% improvement when drawn, because your green deck is probably pretty mopey if you don't draw this. And this wins a huge portion of time that you draw and cast it. So there's that. Briar Bridge Tracker. This is like a very large vigilance threat that also draws a card. It does everything you want to be doing. There is nothing bad about this. This is good. It has a win rate that is like above Organ Hoarder despite being in green instead of blue. Augur of Autumn. Courser Crifix is a strong card. This is very similar. Getting Coven is pretty easy, and then it's like more of a future sight. This card's just like pretty plainly good. It's really a must kill, but it's also like reasonably capable of giving you value right away some portion of the time. Sarith, the Viper's Fang. Your attackers basically all have Death Touch. Your untapped stuff has Hexproof. It doesn't have Hexproof. And then it can untap your other guys to save them from spells. So basically they have to kill this before they kill your other stuff. Mostly they just kill this if they have a removal spell, and that's not particularly bad for them. So it ends up being like good, but not bomby, like worse. So its stats are worse than Shadow Beast Sighting, and that's not particularly surprising to me. But then it's like better than the commons, like the other ones. Unnatural Growth, it costs an absurd amount of green, but it does powerful things if you cast it. This is one where I'm not very surprised to see pretty good improvement when drawn, fueled by relatively low like quality of deck, because you have to go pretty far out of your way to be green enough to cast this. Storm the Festival. I think that this is just a little bit too slow and high variance and green intensive. I think you basically want to avoid it. Willowgeist. I have tried this. It was bad. Theoretically, it might be okay if you super get there, but I think it's more or less impossible and you shouldn't try. Mythics. Wrenn and 7. I'm legitimately surprised that Wrenn and 7 has a higher game and hand win rate than the Grave Titan thing. I've only played against it once. My opponent made a plant, and then I killed the plant and killed Wrenn and 7. I didn't bother reading all the text box of this thing. I just saw that I could answer it and kill the thing. I'm not completely sure what it does, and to be honest, it has more words than I want to take the time to read right now. It's a Planeswalker, and it has a comically high game and hand win rate. I'm sure it's a bomb. Consuming Blob. I think this ends up with multiple blobs. Again, it has a lot of words on it and a good game and hand win rate. I'm sure it's enough of a bomb that you should take it in draft green. Primal Adversary, this one I've actually played. It's a very above rate creature that has the adversary thing going on. It's in very, very strong, but not like straight up bomb territory. There you have it. So, this went pretty quick, so I'm going to pack the rest of this stuff into this video. So, on to multicolor. All right. There are no multicolor commons. Multicolor uncommons, there's a bunch of. Blade Stitch Scab. Game and hand win rate roughly at Organ Hoarder. This thing is super powerful. There just are a lot of zombies. It has like a good body by itself. It outputs just like a lot of extra damage by pumping all your decayed stuff. This card is really good. Devoted Graftkeeper, also super great stats. Also just like does everything that its archetype wants to do. Is a pretty good reason to draft blue-white, and super great if you're blue-white and anyway, and then see it. Flesh Taker, similar situation. The card's just really good, doing what white-black wants to do, winning a lot, good to take early and draft white-black because of. Sacred Fire, really powerful card in a really bad deck. We can look at the game played win percentage, see that you are definitely paying the cost for choosing to play red. Therefore, even though it has a high game in hand win rate, I just don't want to give up 2% to draft red instead of something else. So I would not be inclined to first pick Sacred Fire. Vampire Socialite, exact same situation. It is a red card. You have to play red if you're playing it. You have to mean it because it's a cheap red 2-drop. And if you do that, you're putting yourself into a weaker archetype. Red black vampires is a very coherent deck. So you have a higher win rate for the Vampire Socialite deck than the Sacred Fire deck. I don't think it's disastrous to take Vampire Socialite out of a weak pack, but if I did that, I would be pretty willing to abandon the card if red didn't seem open. I don't want to fight for it, but it is really powerful in the right deck. Rite of Oblivion, this card's great. Just the cost of sacrificing a thing in black-white is extremely low, and getting double hard removal is really, really strong. I like this a lot. Dawnheart Wardens, similar situation. I'm a little bit surprised, incidentally, by the relatively low game played win rate for Rite of Oblivion. I don't have a great story for why that's happening. I do just think it's good. Dawnheart Wardens, good card in a reasonable deck. I would take Rite of Oblivion over it because I would rather be black than green. But yeah, I'm not happy to I'm much happier to first pick Rite of Oblivion than I am to first pick Dawnheart Warden because of what it does to what decks I'm playing. But Dawnheart Warden is powerful if you are in that deck. Winterthorn Blessing, I have never played. Have never been in a spot where it seemed like a reasonable consideration to take it. But it is, the stats tell me it's powerful, and it reads like that's totally believable. Very, good at winning races. Root Coil Creeper, a little surprised that this has worse stats than Winterthorn Blessing. I guess, no, it has identical stats to Winterthorn Blessing. Okay. They're both good cards in this deck. They should probably be drafted more or less the same. Corpse Cobble. This read to me like it would actually be surprisingly good if you make a lot of zombies. The one time I played it, it felt like it had a lot of potential, but ended up just playing out slightly more awkwardly than I wanted. I think this card is mostly not very good. Obviously it has a high game in hand win rate, but I think that's largely just on the back of being in a deck that's super good. We see it has a negative improvement when drawn. I think you mostly don't want to play / super don't want to prioritize this. Join the Dance is really, really good if you have the Coven Trumpet Blast thing. I'm not sure how great it is otherwise. If you're not using those tokens particularly, then I'm not sure how much better this is than other 2-drops that are available. Or not sure if it's better at all. Sunrise Cavalier is a very good aggressive card, except that you have to put red cards in your deck, similar to Vampire Socialite, but I guess not as powerful. Faithful Mending. I think that this is generally not good enough in blue-white decks, but there are probably some blue-white decks that would want it. Storm Skrillex, I just think blue-red is really bad. I might be underestimating it. This might be kind of playable if blue-red's playable, but even if it is, this is on the Baneslayery side and not impressive. This is I would probably take it and play it if I happened to be there, but I'm mostly ignoring this card. Kessinger Naturalists. This would be a good card if it weren't such a horrible deck. The stats make that very obvious. Huge improvement when drawn, but the deck is just so incredibly bad. Grizzly Ghoul, it's like just a large body that you have to do some work for. It's fine, but nothing special. You should probably play it. You probably should. Well, I think you should probably play it. It has like an improvement on drawn. Like, I think you put this in your deck rather than not if you're green black, but I don't think that you drafted earlier, go out of your way for it or anything. Diagraph Rebirth. I have had like green and black cards in my deck and wanted the black common over this. It was because I had multiple Contortionist troops, and I didn't like that this couldn't get those back. In general, I think it's better, but it's just like not that much better. Hungry for more. Aggressive red card, horrible stats. Don't pay any attention to this card. And now we have cards that win even less than that, so you can probably ignore them. They're red gold cards that don't particularly do anything. Rares. Brutal Cathar, not actually a gold card, just a white bomb. Not a lot to say about it. It's a bomb. It's white. You should take it. This thing, I was talking about how this is not a good format for Baneslayers, but like there's a difference between like Baneslayers as kind of a generic term for large threats, and then literally Baneslayer Angel, which is a like completely busted limited card, and this is essentially literally Baneslayer, but maybe better than that. It's a ridiculous bomb, and you should take it. Dennick is really awesome. Definitely a good reason to try to draft blue-white. The last time I drafted it, I got a hard cut on white, and that was unfortunate, but I would still try it again. Suspicious Stowaway is just fantastic. Puts you in a very strong color and is a very strong card in every way. Just nothing not good about this guy. Ludovic Necrogenius. I gave up on reading this one. It's a 2/3 for 2 with like a lot of words on it and a good game in hand win rate. I'm sure you're supposed to take it if you see it, but I really don't want to read all those words now. Angel Fire Ignition is a red card, but apparently good anyway. 62.6% game in hand win rate. The enormous improvement when drawn. The creature that you target with this becomes just an absolute monster. It's only until end of turn, but I guess it pushes a lot of damage, and then you do it again, push damage more. Apparently this wins races. That's pretty believable. So yeah, I would. Oh, the counters stay and the other stuff doesn't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is powerful. Okay. I guess if I saw this first pick, I would probably try white-red. Catilda, Dawnheart Prime. Yep, this is just like transparently good rate green-white card. Again, this is at a anything at this kind of win rate is good enough that you should probably just like take it first pick and try to do its thing. But if there's an Organ Hoarder or something instead, you can take that if you want. Florian, again, high enough win rate that you can take this. But because it's red, if you want to avoid red, it would be totally understandable if you just like take whatever like the best common or uncommon is instead. But obviously this card is like great if you just assume the rest of your deck is going to work. Shipwreck Marsh coming in at 59% just because blue-black's great. All right, don't first pick this. Deserted Breach, same situation. Galvanic Iteration. I am surprised by how high the win rate is on this card. Apparently it is a good card in blue-red. I mean, I get that. It is like giving flashback to Fork makes it way better. This wouldn't be enough to get me to draft blue-red, but it's there for you if you are blue-red, I suppose. This thing is a powerful red-white card that's not powerful enough to make me draft red-white, but is, if you're there, going to be the card you're going to draft. Hallowed Respite. Interesting. So I played this just like to try it, and I wasn't very impressed with it and wasn't sure if it was right to play. The stats suggest that it is right to play reasonably strongly, I guess, with a 5.7% improvement when drawn. Although it's strange because what's going on with this card? These stats are just weird. It has a big improvement when drawn, but its game in hand win rate I think is low for blue-white. It has a small sample size. Low enough that we're not okay. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if only bad players play this card and then it ends up working out for them or something. I'm gonna say even for me personally, jury's still out on this card. When I was using it, I was mostly using it to retrigger ETBs, and it felt fine for doing that, but you can also use it to remove a blocker, which I've done. It's pretty versatile, not very powerful, and I genuinely don't know if you're supposed to play it. Certainly don't draft it highly. Slogurk, the Overslime. This seems a lot better than how it Respite to me. I guess it's mostly just a 3/3 for 3, unless you happen to get a bunch of other self-mill stuff going on. But it is a 3/3 trample for 3 with some upside. Might not want to first pick it because you probably don't want to first pick it. It's a pretty big commitment that doesn't pay you enough to make that commitment. But I think it's a card that you often want to take if you are blue-green. Tular, Dire Overlord. Really strong card if you ignore the fact that it's unplayable because the archetype it goes in is so bad. Haunted Ridge is a land. This is also the old Stick Fingers. Has interesting stats, significant improvement when drawn, but pretty low win rate. Not super sure what to make of that. Comically bad in deck rate. Sounds like people are getting attached and or splashing it. My guess is that you should generally play it if you're green-black, but generally not go out of your way for it or choose to draft green-black because of it or anything, and probably don't splash it. Croaking Counterpart, very cute, very narrow. Not sure why I'd want to play it. Maybe if you're really, I guess if you have a lot of eccentric farmers and organ hoarders, then it becomes pretty good because you might get it for free and it gives you those good ETBs. But it still doesn't seem great. So don't take it highly. Just if you happen to have a ton of that stuff, you can maybe put it in your deck. Siphon Insight seems super, super fun, but it doesn't win enough for me to put it in a deck. Can't Stay Away. It has some words on it and really bad stats, and apparently you shouldn't play it. And then Vadrik I tried drafting once very early, just to I was I think this format's pretty aggressive. I should try drafting an aggro deck, and then I opened it and I was well, this does a bunch of stuff. Let's just take this and try it. It's awful. It's tiny, and you have to do a ton of work to try to get it to be good. And then it dies if it ever is threatening to be good. This card is really, really bad. Ghoul Caller's Harvest. This is the successor to spider spawning, except it only makes half as many and they don't have reach, and the fact that it costs less mana doesn't help you very much, and it's probably just a worse format for that. So sorry, Ghoul Caller's Harvest, you did not give us spider spawning back. Wake to Slaughter has just laughably bad stats. And then we have some more cards that you should put in your deck. And finally, Colorless. All right. Evolving Wilds. If you don't know how to draft Evolving Wilds at this point, I really can't help you. Splashing is relatively bad in this format, so it should be prioritized relatively low for Evolving Wilds in formats in general. Silverbolt is a solid removal spell if your deck is looking for removal spells. It's generally like worse than black removal spells, and then has the problem that just like the format has adapted to removal, but it's fine. Jack-o'-lantern. The idea of playing a multicolor, like green-based self-mill deck that randomly spikes these to enable its splashes is adorable, but I don't think that's a deck you actually want to play in this format. Crossroads Candle Guide. If you were playing that deck, this might help you out, but in reality, it doesn't do quite enough. Stuffed Bear. You can't spend this much mana to have a creature. It just doesn't work out. Uncommons. Mystic Skull has a really bad win rate, like really, really bad. This just has the problems with like expensive creatures. Moon Silver Key. This isn't good. The costs are in the wrong order to make it just like a really bad expedition map, and that means that it's too clunky to use, which is, the fact that these things are just like not at a good rate is part of why the multicolor decks don't work, and then also part of why like if you try to play them, you lose, so you just don't try to play them and you can't play multicolor. Field of Ruin has no reason to be played in limited. The Celestus, this has a good but not bomby game in hand win rate, which makes this card weird to draft. Like, it is a solid common, power level wise, but totally flexible and super unusual. I know that Luis has tweeted that this was an overperformer for him. I haven't played with it. It's weird and hard to evaluate, and I think that you should probably try it out if there are not exceptionally good cards in the pack, but I think that like you should rarely first pick this and should probably just like take some kind of exceptionally strong card instead. Python Needle, I couldn't see myself wanting to consider playing. And there you have it. I have reviewed the cards in Midnight Hunt. Thanks for watching, and I guess if this is on YouTube, I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe. I imagine that if this is on YouTube, it's probably on the Drafting Archetypes channel, so you would largely be subscribing for my podcast rather than more content like this. But trust me, that's good too. If you liked this, you will also like that. Thanks, and bye, everyone.